How are you this morning?
Well, I'm doing okay, I guess. All things considered. How are you doing?
Oh, yeah, I'm having one of those days.
Morning, everyone. Welcome to another painting live stream. I'm Dan, joined by Maddie.
Good morning.
Good morning. I apologise in advance if the noises of a new puppy come through the live stream. She's a little bit unsettled. Obviously, we only got her yesterday, so there may or may not be the sounds of a distressed puppy. There may or may not be the sounds of a distressed Dan. Never mind.
Well,
Go on.
I was just going to say, I've told you before that people love animals on streams, and new puppies especially.
Yes. This one's 9 weeks old today, and I imagine if I put her anywhere near any of the escaping stuff, it could get chewed. And pewter's not good for your health. So, being thoroughly disorganised because I've been attempting to wrangle the puppy for the last hour and she wouldn't settle, I haven't got what we painted last week to show and tell, which is appalling. Never mind. If you do want to see it, go and have a look at the Demonworld Facebook group, where I have posted photos in there. So, given that I'm disorganised and I've had an incredibly, unproductive week from a Demonworld perspective, we're going to work on these guys. So, just some orc spearmen. Yeah, I guess we'll get into it. Because no time like the present. So what's going on up there, Matty?
Oh, our government has lied to us once again.
Isn't that a sky is blue statement?
Well, yes. I'm having one of those days.
Right. I've been adjusting camera angles, so I don't know if the camera angles are better or worse or indifferent or... Tell me if you can see any better what's going on.
Well, I mean, so far so good. But when it comes to the actual painting, we're yet to see.
Well, you mean how it turns out?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that's going to change because I'm not exactly going to do anything different. But
from a a camera angle perspective, we can see your miniature bang center of the larger image, and everything's nice and clear in the picture-in-picture, so yeah, well done.
Job done. Right, you hear that, camera? Stay there. I'm sure the damn thing is sentient. Apparently Skynet became self-aware a few days ago.
I was given a link to a motivational poster creating AI the other day that gets things a little Skynetty.
Mm-hmm.
Allegedly by accident and not on purpose.
The particular Facebook post that I saw that carried that meme, it was talking about Skynet went live on a certain date, and I can't remember the date, but it was something Eastern Standard Time. And somebody pointed out that we don't use Standard Time at this time of year because it's in the US and they're on daylight savings. And I made the off-the-cuff remark that it seemed reasonable to me to suggest that the accident of an off by 1 hour would be just the thing to turn an AI self-aware, because that would be poetic. And I apologise for the geeky programmer humour, but off by 1 errors are the bane of our existence. So how's the weather?
I don't know. Haven't been outside. I'm kidding. It's a nice day out. I'm looking forward to spending some time in the garden.
Right. Reading?
Yes, I received a lovely new book. Came in the post on Friday.
And what's the book about?
It's one you may remember, Medieval Military Combat by Dr. Tom Lewis.
There you go.
Battle Tactics and Fighting Techniques of the War of the Roses.
I myself am very much looking forward to reading that when I get a spare couple of hours.
Spare couple of hours. Who are you kidding?
Brand new puppy. That'll be 6 months away.
I have another book I need to read first, but that doesn't need discussion at the moment.
Right.
So I've just Googled what date Judgment Day was, and it's had about 30 different dates.
Yeah.
So, the Terminator franchise. I
Red,
mean, I love the first two movies. I've never seen the third one, and I thought the one that came out in 2009 was pretty good. But yeah, the Terminator franchise.
retconning for the win. I remember the second one blowing my mind when I saw it at the cinema.
Yeah, I was just a little young for that.
Dying to ask, but I don't know whether I should, about whether or not you're set for tomorrow.
I've put some pieces in action. Not nearly going to be as prepared as I thought I would have liked to have been, but that's always the case when it comes to me doing things. Things in general, not in specific.
Right.
we'll see how things go.
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm glad. I hope I don't disappoint.
I just hope that I don't get severely interrupted, but I have a feeling I will get.
Well, that's life.
Yeah.
And life happens to everyone.
Until it doesn't. And that happens to everyone too. See,
Quite so.
we're all about the philosophy this morning.
Don Higgins, if you're out there and you're listening to this at another date, you have our condolences.
Yes, you certainly do.
So I had a technique question for you, Dan.
Right.
As you may have known, I picked up some larger miniatures, some of the bears that you had last week, and some other bigger things. And I'm having a bit of trouble getting them to stay on my painting stands. How do you accomplish that with your... Well, in general, it looks like you just super glue them. Is that right?
Loctite 401.
Come again? You do what?
Loctite 401. Super glue. Cyanoacrylate based super glue. But it's got to be the cyanoacrylate based stuff. Because the stuff that you get at the supermarket in those cheap tubey thingies is crap.
Quite so.
So, without plugging anybody or anything in particular, you can get these ones, which are the 20 gram. You can get the 20 gram ones of those. Depending on the place you get it and the quantity you get it in, you can get it down as far as about $10 a tube on eBay. A single one of those runs to about $24 at Bunnings.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Yeah, so you can get it. You've got to buy it in bulk, but you can get it significantly cheaper than that online. Postage for it, you just have to wait for the post, which at the moment in Australia is looking like it's about 2 to 2.5 weeks domestic, based on if you get anything sent at all from New South Wales
or Victoria or Western Australia.
Yeah, but that's just because they live halfway around the planet.
Also true. Alright, so I've Loctited my minis to my painting stands.
To your nails.
To my nails.
Yeah.
And I'm done painting them, and it's time for basing. What do I do to get them off?
You hold the nail in your hand like that, you put your thumb on the edge of the miniature like that, and you pop it like you would be popping a cap off a bottle. It might take a little bit of pressure, it might not, depending on how good that particular super glued bond is, but they literally just pop off.
Okay. I admit that I've been afraid and hesitant to do that so far because pewter is bendy.
Yeah, but if you get the edge, the lip of the base with your hand, with your finger, and you don't put any pressure on any of the rest of the model, you're all good.
Fair enough.
Now, the other thing to note is that I use this stuff. I don't know if you can see that. Bob Smith Industries Instaset Zap Kicker. So it just makes the super glue go off super fast. So the way I actually put a miniature on the base, on the stand, is I've got the nail, I drop a bead of super glue on to the top of that, I get the miniature, I put a little smear of the Zap Kicker on the base of the miniature, and then I put the miniature on top of the nail and hold it, and in about 3 seconds and it's grabbed. So that glue combination then means that I can work my way through a packet of 12, just one after another, set them all up. And the way that sets up means that when it comes time to getting them off, they just pop off. You can't use this technique metal to plastic. Like if, for example, I was to try and do that with that nail and that plastic base, you've got no chance. You then have to grind the weld out because it grabs to plastic incredibly well. But when you've got two metal surfaces like this, it works beautifully.
I thank you for the advice.
It's probably worth trying a couple of times just to get the hang of it before you actually throw any paint anywhere near a miniature, because it'd be nothing worse than wrecking a paint job because you hadn't quite got the technique down or something like that. And when they pop off, normally on the Demonworld stuff, the residual glue, or the acrylic plastic, which is actually what it is left on the nail head, and then I get an X-Acto blade and just scrub the rest of it off the nail head. And so, I don't know, I'm using the same 30 or 40 nails over and over and over and over again. But yeah. But literally, once you've done that, once you've cleaned it all up and everything, you can just glue the same miniatures again, because nothing's changed.
That's going to be very handy to know. My bears will thank you, and so will my Dirocones and some other things.
And that miniature that I just showed, this Infinity miniature, that's got a 3D printed nail extension and just blue tack, or poster putty as they call it in America. And they look like this. It was, those discs are 3D printed with the chamfer and the hole cut in the middle so that they go onto the nail, and they're glued on. So they don't, well, that one isn't. But normally I glue them on so they don't move around. And those are really, really good for dropping light plastic miniatures on, like, I don't know, 15mm tanks and things like that. With blue tack, and they hold relatively well, and you see these museum scale interceptors done like that, so they're just sitting on blue tack. The trouble with metal miniatures that size is that the blue tack will never hang on to them, so eventually it'll just sag and fall off.
Yep.
which is what I imagine's happening with the bears.
Every morning I come and check my bears and they've slid off.
Yeah, that's not good. Because you're in one of those climates in the world where blue tack never really sets up. It always stays really tacky and soft.
Particularly if it's been used once before.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a cheapskate, so of course I do that.
Of course you do. This blue tack's going on 10 years old. It's been used hundreds of times. You don't throw the stuff away. Word of warning: if you get the Bob Smith Industries Zap Kicker, don't get that anywhere near your blue tack. There is a chemical reaction between the two of them which turns the blue tack into nasty, gooey, sticky rubbish. It's absolute pain to clean off at that point. Because normally you clean blue tack off by dabbing other blue tack on it to pull it off, right? Once it turns into that really nasty, goopy, sticky stuff, there's no getting it off. It's just foul. So those two chemicals, keep them well apart. Ask me how I know. It's funny because it's true. I know I'm not young anymore because 7 hours driving one day still affects me the next. And even with all of the modern conveniences like radar, cruise control.
Driving anywhere down there would be stressful. You got traffic cops everywhere and red light cameras and fixed red light cameras and radar traps.
Yep. And boy oh boy did we see a big police presence yesterday. There was a breath testing station set up in a country town called Wallen. And I reckon we saw the breath testing station itself, 4 or 5 highway patrol cars, 4 or 5 police motorcycles. So just wondering why they were blitzing that particular area.
Revenue raising.
Well, I assume so. Those people needed to get paid.
Yeah, well, it's not like they can go out and do real work because everyone's locked up at home. And so there's no crime.
Yeah. Oh, you would think so. I didn't see... And I mean, you know, I have to be very careful with this, but it is legal at the moment, even despite the fact that we're in a lockdown, to go and pick up a pet from a breeder at the appointed time. And we did have an appointment and all that kind of stuff, and we had a letter, and so it was all perfectly legal what we were doing. But it just looked like normal traffic to me. Like, we were heading up there roughly at peak hour in the morning, and the roads were packed, shall we say. So I don't know that there was an awful lot of people staying at home.
Maybe they've all got legal excuses, like they're in the CFMEU.
Yeah, possibly. Ours is not to wonder why. Ours was just to cope with the fact that there was an awful lot of traffic on the roads. We did have a good run up the Northern Highway though. But again, radar cruise control. You come cruising up behind some guy who's, 2 or 3 kilometers an hour slower than you, and the car just adapts. And, you're not having to turn the cruise on and off and jiggle around and all that kind of stuff. It's seamless, and it actually removes the stress. Especially when you've got a puppy in the car and the puppy's not happy because puppy's never experienced this before and is very anxious. And I should also note that puppy is partially deaf and so can't hear itself, so tends to get to the loud end of the spectrum.
The joys of parenthood.
Parenthood, that's it. What am I doing? Washing my brush out, that's what I'm doing. I was debating whether or not I was going to do both units or just one. I think I'll just do one at a time. There's a lot of metal on these guys. So are you painting?
Not at the moment, I'm watching your stream.
Oh, right, okay.
My hands are covered in primer.
Okay. I'm gonna need to convince you, aren't I?
Well, realities of the situation just don't work that way, unfortunately. I mean, I'm convinced, I just can't do it.
Right.
So let me tell you about my painting morning so far.
Okay.
Primering.
Yes.
After picking up my bears...
Reattaching them, yeah.
I picked up my bottle of primer and I put some on my palette, and then I picked up my bottle of flow improver, and the cap broke.
Oh.
And the top of the so you've got your threaded bit of the and your top bit that covers the dropper, and the top bit that covers the dropper is separated 360 degrees from the threaded part of the cap.
Right.
So that top part rolled off under the table and into a pile of boxes.
Right.
So I've ghetto sticky taped that closed because, you have to dig it out yet and then try and repair it. Hey, guess what? I got super glue Loctite. No worries. That'll happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I prepared my primer and started brushing it on. It went on the first one, all right, one coat. And then the second one, an arm dropped off.
Oh, no.
Off the... I was priming a pair of die raccoons, and one of them, the forward-leaning version of that particular unit, one of them doesn't have a great arm mount on its right side, and I had a lot of trouble getting it to stay on when I put it together. And it dropped off under a little bit of pressure as I was grasping it to put some primer on it. And I'm like, stream of invective. And that's how I got primer all over my hands.
Yeah.
Because I tried to save the damn thing as it fell. So I'm going to take that one back to bare metal because it's got my fingerprints all through the primer.
Yeah.
That's still on there, and then I'm going to try and clean up the super glue and get the arm back on there.
Yep.
And start all over again.
That's no fun.
Well, then it was about 7:30, and I just put my hands up in the air, and I thought, you know what? I need a cup of tea. So I made a cup of tea, and I turned on a replay of Don's latest Don's latest drawing stream, and I was enjoying that until this started. And now I'm enjoying this, and, you know, day's looking okay so far. Since then.
Since then. Yeah. Well, all I can see is been there.
Done that a few hundred times.
Yeah, know exactly how all of that feels.
I'd be more upset if it was the bear sled that came apart.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's something else I should ask. How do you mount your for your cavalry and other mounted figures? How do you mount the rider onto your painting stands? Do you do basically the same thing, or?
This is where it gets a little bit tricky. So I have these things. Let me wash this out because dry in the tip of that. So that, and that is not that you're going to be able to see it very well because it's completely covered in about 25 layers of primer, but that is a dressmaking pin glued into the end of a matchstick. Happens to be a coloured matchstick, but an ordinary matchstick will do. So that's dressmaking pin with the head of the pin cut off and glued into a matchstick.
Okay, I'm with you so far.
Pin vise with a 0.9mm drill in the end of it, which happens to be a loose fit for that pin. And when I say loose fit, it's not really very loose, it's just not super tight. So I think the dressmaking pin's 0.85 or something like that, and it's a 0.9 drill. I then drill a hole in the seat of the cavalry rider where it's going to be glued to the mount. So effectively, when I'm done painting and I pull the pin back out of it, I've got a spot that is hidden when the two miniatures are joined together. And then normally, well, then yeah, you just drop a bead of super glue on the end of the pin and just, I mean, you only need to drill a couple of millimetre into the base of the miniature and you drop a glue on the pin and drop the miniature on there and stick it in the slot on the stand and it dries. And then you paint that the same way you paint the mount, and when you're done, pull it off the pin and glue them together. Normally you'll need to do a little bit of cleanup because the glue will leave a little bit of a sort of a raised sort of volcano-y type shaped thing. That's easy enough to clean up, and it's in a spot that's hidden, so it doesn't matter.
Fair enough, good to know.
So yeah, it's a little bit more work, but when the two things go together, you've got a better paint job because you can get to the bits on the rider that you wouldn't normally be able to get to when you've glued them together.
Yes, what I've done with my riders so far is a two-stage process. One, the bulk of the model, where it's been attached to, where the stand has been attached to the shield that they're holding, which is about a good size for the head of my stand nail. And then once the rest of it's done, I go back and do the shield.
Yeah, right. So how were those stands that I sent you, how were they a fit for your nails?
They're a little tight. I'm going to drill them out just a tiny little bit more.
Yep. What I find on these particular nails, sometimes you get a little burr here and they stick in the holes. I'm actually having this, there's about 3 generations here. These two are a generation ago, and then there's these ones, and I painted these ones relatively recently, and they're an absolute pain because they're about 1/4 of a millimeter tighter than the other ones, and sometimes the nails go into them, sometimes they don't. See that sticking? And if I had my workshop and I had my drill press, I'd be out there with a drill drilling them out.
And you'd be done in about 3 seconds.
Yeah, something along those lines. But I don't. I still don't have my workshop. So
Oh, you got the door.
I've got the door. So there is that.
That's progress.
Well, you know, the first week of September really means before October, doesn't it?
Did they specify what year?
No, they didn't. So
well, there you go.
They've given themselves a 12-month window.
12? Optimistic, aren't you? Try 36.
Yeah, that's just right. It's a little bit frustrating, but I assume they're suffering the same as everybody else is, and that is that there are supply issues.
Everyone and their brother is trying to build steel sheds at the moment, or steel frame houses.
There's a general shortage of steel anyway.
Yep.
And heaven forbid you're trying to get a new computer. Oh boy.
Or even a video game console.
Yeah, I think the latter is more because there are a lot of people at home with more spare time. But actually, to be fair, they're probably struggling from the chip shortage too.
They certainly are. That's not to say that I'm in the market, it's just that some people I know have Christmas coming up and they're buying their goods real early this year.
Yeah.
Because they ain't going to be around in 3 months' time.
Yeah, for very good reason.
Holy cow. I was thinking when I said 3 months, oh yeah, 3 months will be October. I've only just realised it's September, and 3 months is December. Where is this year gone?
Yeah, I don't know.
Straight down the toilet like the one before it.
No, you know, I don't think it did. I I think it bypassed the bathroom in its entirety. I think it went.
Oh, so it was like one of those late night accidents where it's just kind of sitting in the hallway.
Yep. Soaking into the floorboards.
That's true. That was, that would be really fair to say.
So I had big plans this week. I had plans that these 2 units would be already done and that I would be painting something else, something along the lines of, I don't know, I've got 7 packets of these, so maybe another 2 packets of these, but trying to catch up, but sadly real life got in the way.
Well, it does that.
I've been carping on about some of the systemic problems that we've got at work, at paid work, for quite some time. If you've watched or listened to some of the earlier live streams, you will have heard Clee and I banging on about that sort of crap. Anyhow, there's been movement at the station, and I'm starting to realise that sometimes you should be careful for what you wish for, because you might just get it, because it looks like I'm getting it, and that just means I've got a tremendous amount of work to do. And therefore I've actually spent some extracurricular hours setting things up to enable that process to start, which means that those extracurricular hours that I would have been spent painting Demonworld or putting together background for Demonworld or doing Etherstream models, which is actually what my primary faster task is at the moment, just didn't get done. And now with young puppy in the household, that's gonna be even more difficult.
But you could literally say, well, dog ate my homework.
Literally.
It's always a fairly flimsy excuse, but back it up with a photo.
Mm-hmm. Here's one chewed up laptop. Supposed to be getting a new one of those. It was 4 weeks away 5 weeks ago, so probably, honestly, it's probably canoodling with my workshop.
Are they coming from the same place?
No. What difference does that make?
Well, true, all the components come from the same place.
Yep. This is really strange. This guy's looks to me like there's a leather piece sitting over the top. So we'll paint it as if there's a leather piece sitting over the top.
Damn that overabundance of detail that makes these miniatures so gorgeous.
Oh, the next question I'm going to ask you: Did I get the base count right?
I haven't checked, to be honest. I expect that you did.
Oh, I don't. But it'd be nice if I did.
I reckon you will have. I just haven't had time to unpack it all yet and have a look. I've actually spent very little time at my table this morning. Well, this morning. Not only this morning, but the last, hell, all week since. I haven't really done much since Monday.
Yeah, but you've been busy. You've had other things to do.
Other obligations that I would rather... Some I'd rather be doing and some I'd rather not.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually asked about that at one of those obligations yesterday.
Right.
I bit my tongue. Well, this was 15 minutes after I spent Monday... Oh, after I was instructed to spend Friday morning undoing the work of Thursday.
Right. Was this...
I mean, I'm a hard worker. I work hard and I take my obligations seriously. I'm not a scumbag like that. I take it seriously, and if I'm obligated to do something, I'll do it, and I'll do it to the best of my ability.
Mm-hmm.
I just, was instructed on Friday morning to undo what I did on Thursday, and I'm not a great big fan of that sort of double handling. I would have much rather that instruction have come on Monday, and just not immediately after I busted my ass to do something.
Yeah.
Then I was like, oh no, put it back the way it was. Oh, I nearly walked out.
And what was the reasoning behind putting it back the way it was? Was it just that somebody had a theory and the theory didn't work out, or was it a personal preference, or...
A 70-year-old lady asked why there were so few books on a shelf.
Right.
And it's because I spent Thursday getting rid of the ones that hadn't been sold in the 6 months they were sitting there.
Right. And so it was like, oh, maybe people do look at those things even though they don't sell.
Yeah, well, they look, but they don't sell. They pick them up, they put them back in the wrong spot. You've worked a bookshop, you know exactly what people do with books.
Yep.
So, yeah. But it was, a management decision that was reversed effectively on the whim of a little old lady who's never looked at those books ever in her life before and never will again. I'm like, seriously?
Yeah.
Yes, I could taste the blood on my tongue from all that biting. And whoever it is out there who's watching us at some point in the future, you'll never know.
Mm.
I'm not going to talk about that. Private conversations in public forums. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
The stream says it has 2 viewers, but you know, one of them's me and the other is 3 bots.
Right.
So I'm not sure how that's supposed to work. Maybe we'll get hate raided.
Why?
Because that's the cool thing to do on Twitch, apparently.
Is it?
Yeah, there's been some talk about it recently.
So what is that? Somebody just decides they don't like something and they gather a whole bunch of people together and they, what, shut a stream down?
People or bots, yeah, and they just flood a text channel too fast for moderation to deal with.
Interesting form of denial of service attack.
Kind of.
And are these attacks normally topical or are they just random?
Well, could be either. The ones that get more prominently discussed have a certain anti-alphabet, I shouldn't say that, anti-LGBTI, etc.
Okay.
Theme to them, but those are the ones that get, you know, discussion in the, I'd like to say newspapers of record, but
Yeah, right.
streamer websites. But it happens in other places too, they just don't care as much. I'm being awfully cynical, maybe I ought to shut up.
No. The world's an interesting place, isn't it? I wouldn't even consider that that kind of thing would even happen. So.
Well, for my mind, it's the same mentality as streaking at a football match.
Yeah. Look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me.
40,000 people get together to have a good time, watch something going on that's being done by a handful of people, and someone goes to make it all about themselves.
Yeah.
Remember when you could streak at a football match? The good old days.
But were they?
When your halftime beers came in cans.
Yep.
A pie didn't cost $15.
And it was hot.
And it was hot. And you could get heavy beer.
Yep. And people had car accidents on the way home and killed themselves.
Well, people do that anyway after a night on the town.
Yeah, that stuff still happens. The thing about it is that, and this is pretty typical of the progression of every society. It's like something happens that is bad, It affects one or more people, usually more people, negatively. And so something is, quote, done about it, unquote. And what's done about it only relates to that particular thing. And everybody thinks at the time, well, that's reasonable. We don't have any issue with that because it's, it seems like a sensible thing to do. This bad thing really shouldn't have happened. It could have been avoided if these certain other things had been in place. So somebody or a group of people makes it their goal to put those things in place. And by itself, it's a reasonable thing. And, we look at ourselves and we say, okay, society has improved. And you apply that process, tens of thousands of times. And then suddenly you wake up one morning and you look around and you can't do anything because this process has been applied in isolation to a bunch of different things. It has driven you into a situation where collectively you now can't do a damn thing. And then the group of people who are then stuck with that situation where they can't do a damn thing rebel against it. And we're actually seeing a little bit of this with these COVID restrictions, these lockdowns and everything like that. Starts out, seems reasonable. After a certain period of time, it isn't reasonable anymore.
Shifting the goalposts on those certainly not reasonable.
No.
We're at the 18th month of 2 weeks to flatten the curve.
Yeah. Well, I've lived those kinds of 2-week things professionally, where back in 2001, was it 2001? I think it was 2001, where I worked a project for 9 months, 2 weeks at a time. And it was just another 2 weeks and we'll get it over the line. We'll do whatever we can in the next 2 weeks and we'll get it over the line. And let me tell you, 9 months of sustained 80 plus work hour weeks doesn't do anybody any good in the long run.
Certainly true.
And the epitaph on the tombstone of that particular project was they cancelled it. So we absolutely killed ourselves to try and make that thing a reality. And in the end, the parent corporation said, oh no, we've made a deal with another company. We're not doing that anymore. Go and do something else, thanks.
I would have been rather annoyed at that.
Yep. Well, there was a whole bunch of people that actually lost their jobs because they shut down an organisation because of that. They announced a merger with another multinational company and changed their technology direction, and so they just shut an organisation down. So there was a bunch of people who put a lot of time, effort, hard work, angst, themselves, whatever, into this particular thing. And not only did they shut the project down, but they shut it down and they lost their jobs. And there were some people from that particular organisation, particularly because September 11 happened not that long afterwards, which tore the floor out of the industry. They were still looking for work 2 years later. So it was a very, very unhappy situation for everybody that was involved in that particular project.
Yes, it's kind of happen to me at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But these things do come round.
Yeah.
Sometimes, maybe.
Well,
We'll see.
I've certainly got my fingers crossed for you that some opportunities come up and that you get to be able to start writing the next chapter.
Maybe I need to write a whole new book.
Well, I've considered that for myself, to be honest. We'll see what this cough opportunity that I'm being given at work. See how that pans out. Because that could either be career changing or it could be career destroying. So, and one might argue that those two things are the same.
For a given value of change.
Mm-hmm. Going back to what we were talking about with, reasonable things turning out to be not so reasonable, just reminded of the situation in Europe in the 20s and 30s where there was a particular government who liked to keep track of where all of its citizens were and who they were and what they were and what they liked and what they didn't like, and in the context of that country at that time it was okay. They didn't do anything nefarious with that information. The government of the country that subsequently invaded them had other uses for that information, shall we say, and a lot of people died. So it isn't necessarily what's going to be done with that societal change today that is necessarily the issue. Maybe what's done with that societal change tomorrow that could be very, very bad.
Well, we're seeing that repeat too, aren't we?
Yeah, and it does, and it repeats time after time after time.
I'd depressingly ask, when will it end? But the answer is it never will.
Human nature.
Yep.
And I didn't mean the band. Because although that was an ending of sorts. Yeah, we do the deep philosophy here on this painting live stream. I can see why other people that do this sort of thing choose larger figures and they do one figure at a time on the live stream, because seriously, watching somebody put the same colour on 12 miniatures must be tedious at best.
But the miniatures are varied. It goes on in different places.
It does. One of these days this might actually be popular, and people will look back on these early ones and go, "What were you thinking?"
What were you thinking? Why did you let that idiot get on? Talk all over the stream.
And then and then they'll ask about you.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that question hasn't already been asked. Actually, it probably has, and I don't want to know the answer.
No, it hasn't. It has not.
Hi, guys.
I assume you're keeping an eye out just in case somebody accidentally blunders into the wrong live stream.
I do.
Good.
I do. That's how I know we have 3 bots.
Right. Do we know what they are?
Standard user counting sorts of things.
Yeah, right.
For some reason. I don't understand the whole purpose of keeping track of what other people are watching on a Twitch stream. Like, who would actually need that information other than as a commodity to sell to stupid people?
I think you just answered your own question.
True. True. I was hoping for something a little more rational than human nature.
Well, you know, your music choice is your music choice.
I tell you what, I did see a lot of this week on Thursday and Friday while I was playing with my bookshelves. It looks like a couple of people had tried to start up their own little businesses, which then folded because a whole lot of self-help and marketing books were received from several different sources. I'm like, there might be money in this. Write a self-help book that's just complete crap and people will buy it anyway, and it doesn't matter if they read it or not.
You've just cracked the self-help book market.
Now I need to find time to write a book. Too many other things to write. But if I do get around to it, I promise the last 4 chapters will be excerpts from the Oliver North trial. That's a Simpsons joke. I'd totally do it though, just to see if anyone actually notices.
Yeah, right. I used to enjoy those demotivational posters. There was always one that always really got me giggling, which was, it was a picture of a sinking ship. And the little quote at the bottom of it said, "It could be that your life is simply there as a warning to others."
We all have a part to play in God's plan. Or whichever cosmic deity thing that we're a plaything of you prefer.
All hail his noodly appendage.
I want to be a space wizard.
Why wouldn't you?
Because I'd have to write it in on the census.
It's very disappointed they didn't have Jedi in there. Welcome to spring in Victoria. It's windy again. Who'd have thought?
An ill wind blowing from the south.
This one's a northerly. But it's still ill. There's an awful lot of pollen in it. Which you would change later today or tomorrow. It's supposed to be wet tomorrow. So if I want to get out and play with my driveway sculpting, I'm going to have to do it today. Because tomorrow it'll be mud again. So you were telling me that you were contemplating another order.
Oh yeah, I realised that what's an Isthak set of miniatures? I hesitate to use the word army because of my preferences, but what's Isthak without ice witches?
Uh-huh.
So there's a lot of ice witches sitting in my shopping basket. And some skeletons, because I figured, you know, what's the point of having necromancers as hero figures if you're not going to have skeletons for them to necromance?
These are all very good points. I have no cogent debate against.
And I thought the knights of whatever, the ones on horseback, you know,
Cleansing Dark.
there's only those guys. The Cleansing Dark. They look really cool, so I thought, you know, 6 might not be enough. I might need 12 or 18 or 30. Yeah, because, you know, cavalry, and they're cool looking ones.
I do believe you may have caught the bug. I do believe.
Yeah. Yeah, I reckon so. I just need to, you know, get some cash.
That's something better than the rate that they're paying you for the stuff they're making you do at the moment.
This is true. But then again, if that happens, I'll have even less time for painting.
Yeah, this is the trouble.
I finally understand how people amass a mountain of metal.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a heck of a lot easier to buy it than it is to paint it. Because when you've got the job to earn the money to buy it, you don't have the time to paint it.
That's a dichotomy I've always understood. It's just I've never applied it to painting before. It's always been to other hobbies.
Yeah. Remember the Mexican fisherman.
Well, I'd like to be able to feed myself on a fish a day.
Yep.
Yes, unfortunately, if I built myself a beach beside of a shack, I'd have all manner of council numpties coming to knock it down on me.
Mm-hmm. Circular conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Coffee pants for the win.
This guy's wearing the brown pants. He knows what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I do wish he didn't say coffee though, because
Mm-hmm.
now I want some.
I didn't name the colour. It's actually the colour of the coffee that my mum used to drink. It's that milky coffee colour, not the...
Yeah, well, I could do a flat white right about now. I'm not ordinarily a coffee drinker with milk or other additives. I prefer it black.
Mm.
But I could do a latte right now. Or a flat white. They're basically the same thing. And if you're a barista out there, I'd challenge you to deny it and justify it.
That there's a difference between the two?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, technically there is, and it's a small percentage of foam versus froth, but you all make them the same way.
I don't have enough hair left to split it that fine. The difference between froth and foam.
Froth and foam, yeah. And we're talking percentages here that are a single digit, I reckon.
Mm-hmm. Well, if we ever accidentally get any baristas watching this, maybe we'll find out.
Yep. You know, human nature is still going.
Well,
It's Crowded House that you're probably thinking of.
Yeah, I know. Don't listen to either of those, so...
I don't mind some Crowded House.
I think Crowded House lost a drummer, didn't they?
Possibly. I don't really listen to a lot of music anymore.
Hmm.
I have one album and one EP loaded onto the MP3 portion of my phone's SD card.
Right.
They're the same ones that have been there since 2018.
Right. have Spotify. But I have to admit that I listen to the same 4 albums over and over and over again, which hardly seems like good value for money paying for a monthly subscription. But it's a family
you
subscription.
probably bought those. Oh, there you go.
Oh, that just means that my partner listens to the same half a dozen albums that she likes. So what is it? Maybe 10 or a dozen albums between us. Actually, she does listen to. She likes getting random stuff crop up in her feed, listening to new music and things like that. I tend not to go for that.
New music.
And by new music, this is stuff that was around 25 years ago that I didn't hear of at the time and is now new to me. Yeah.
Just couldn't help it.
Big thing in the last year or so for a band called Kidney Thieves, and I missed their heyday. Just missed it completely. Didn't know that they existed. But I've been right through their back catalogue now.
I did that with a little band called Metric.
Yeah, right.
Who have a certain degree of fame in other parts of the world, and
none in Australia.
Yeah, I guess they get played on Triple J.
Oh, okay.
Who listens to that?
I stopped listening
Triple
to...
J's for kids.
Yeah, I stopped listening to Triple J. Yeah, nigh on 20 years ago.
That was probably the best time to do it.
When I was listening to Triple J, Mikey Robbins and Helen Razor were doing the mornings. So that's how long ago that was.
Mikey Robbins, I wonder what he's up to now.
I
don't see him on TV anymore.
The odd episode of Spicks and Specs. Cute animals on a live stream are being stared at by cats. They've been banished in here because apparently the puppy likes to chase them.
I haven't heard a dog yet, incidentally. I know you're a little worried about that at the outset.
I did hear a little bit of whining a little while ago, 10 minutes, 15 minutes ago. Obviously the mic didn't pick that up.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Hello, Logan. He's found himself a spot on the dog bed. It's all good. Have we got a start time for tomorrow?
Kind of.
Somewhere between 8 and 9.
Yeah, I probably ought to do something about that, hey?
Well, I mean, you are attempting to wrangle people from quite different...
The other side of the planet with different time zones between themselves as well.
Exactly, yeah.
I think I told Max 7, so 9 for us.
Righto. with a lunchtime-y finish-ish.
Yeah, that would be about right.
I guess I'm doing armor now. Oh, that was very nearly very bad.
The wash pot nearly went off the back of the table, didn't it?
No, I got these guys sitting in the other rack. They've got spears sticking up, and as I reached out, I got my sleeve of my top caught on a couple of them and nearly dragged them onto the floor.
Oh yeah, that could have been very bad.
Okay. There's a whole batch of red here I've missed.
Well, those can be the shirtless dudes.
No,
Or the ones wearing boob tubes.
it's the shirt coming out from underneath the belt. Oh, I'll just go back and do it. It's not that big a deal.
It's always the way with these ones. You find something new every time you move on from a colour.
That's it. It's part of the process. Did you get some more 1879 stuff, or was it all Demonworld?
My last order was all Demonworld.
Here you go.
Yeah, I thought about getting some more Samsut to add in with the next planned order. I'd like to get some of those controllers, like Skellyman's holding sedan chairs.
Yeah, right.
I have absolutely no idea what they look like because, you know, there's no pictures of them, but I can imagine they're pretty cool. They're pretty cool in my imagination, and, you know, that's generally good enough for me.
Yep. Did you looked at both sites?
Both sides?
Yeah, there's a store section of the Faster Games site.
Oh yeah, they're available through there at inflated cost, of course, but there's no images of them on there either.
Ah, okay. That was the question I was asking, I guess.
No, it's a good question too. Yeah, some of the Samsung Cavalry has pictures on there as well, and actual availability.
Yep.
I like the look of those six-legged horses that they have.
I want some.
Yeah.
It's pay week next week. And another order will be going.
Sort of that make 4 orders pending.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's right, 4. That's all right, they'll catch up. At some point.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, with there being a bit of COVID in the house, hopefully that's not affecting them too badly.
Yep.
So yeah, sending our best wishes to Martin and Paul. I hope everything's okay.
That's another job I think I would like to do. If I was going to have a change in my chapter, I think I'd like to work in a warehouse that delivers stuff that people actually like.
Yeah.
Instead of working in a warehouse that's just filled with other people's old discarded crap.
Right. So, given that there's like essentially 3 phases in the life of something that somebody likes, there's you want to be involved in the first part, not any of the subsequent parts.
I guess. I mean, I'd like to learn how to the whole casting process and all of that stuff as well. That would be really cool, I think.
I'm intrigued by the mold making process. I'd like to learn how that works.
I've watched some videos out of Japan on how Bandai does it with their model kits.
Yeah.
Making their molds, and wow.
Well, that'd always CNC stuff, wouldn't it? CNC and steel.
Well, a lot of the prototyping is still wood, believe it or not.
Oh, wow. Okay. I did have some model kits turn up during the week. Stuff that I ordered some time ago. Old Formula 1 cars.
Oh, cool. From what era?
Oh, the late 70s.
Was that when they had the 2 sets of small front steering wheels?
That's it. The 6-wheeler Tyrrell.
I loved that look.
Yep.
I love that look. I'm sad that they moved away from it. It's just so cool.
They moved away from it because the tyre company didn't want to spend the money and the effort to develop smaller tyres for one team. So if more teams had gone to the whole full front wheel thing, then maybe it would have survived. But in actual fact, while it was competitive, it wasn't a dominant advantage. It did win a Grand Prix.
I just love the style of it. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
it's one of the coolest things around.
Yeah, I agree with you. When you look at those grids in the videos and you see it on the grid, it's just like, wow. But yeah, they ran it 2.5 seasons and then abandoned it, primarily because they couldn't get the tyres developed. Because a 10-inch tyre has to spin faster and therefore it gets hotter and blah blah blah. Technical details.
I suppose spending more time in the pits would be a disadvantage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, super cool. Anyhow, funnily enough, I also at the same time got a model of the car that would have killed it off anyway, which was the Grand Effect Lotus, the 79, no, not the 78. Which is one of the best looking Grand Prix cars ever made, but you know.
I'm just looking that one up now because I don't know that one. just from memory.
And a load of 79. Piloted by Mario Andretti and Ronnie Peterson, right up until Ronnie Peterson's death, and then was taken over Jean-Pierre Jarier.
Oh yeah, yeah, I remember this style too.
Yeah.
Man, cigarette ads.
That's them. that black and gold livery is still elegant, timeless. When I got interested in motorsport, which was on or around about sort of the end of 1984, Australian Touring Car Championship was transitioning into Group A from Group C, and Frank Gardner was running a team that was running 635 BMWs in a John Player special livery. And so I've got a 635 model kit here, and I've got the JPS decal set for it. Which wasn't cheap at the time that kit was new, but boy, that's eye-watering now.
I imagine so.
You know, we carry on and carp and moan about how expensive wargaming stuff is, but when a single 1/20th scale Grand Prix model kit, you know, is setting you back $100 to $120, you know, spending $70 on a Lehman Russ actually doesn't look that bad. or more to the point, $130 on a Baneblade isn't that bad. And for all of you people out there going, but a Baneblade's $165, you're not shopping at the right places.
I'm one of those people who are out there saying, but a Baneblade's like £3,000 because they make it all out of resin. Oh wait, that was a while ago. They stopped that because no one buys the damn thing.
No, plenty of people bought them, but they recognised that there was a market for the plastic versions, which is why they did them. And they've sold truckloads of them. I know, because I bought half a truckload.
As you do.
No, this is not true. I only bought 2. I certainly wouldn't have been buying 2 back when they were resin from Forge World. Don't know that I'm going to get a lot of longevity out of this brush. So yeah, I've got quite a stack of model kits here to be put together now, as well as war games and stuff. So at some point I'm just going to have to stop spending money because I'll have run out of room.
Well, that's only a problem until your shed gets arrived and erected.
Oh no.
And then it's a temporary setback.
No. There's so much stuff in the garage that has to go into that workshop. You know, like the goal of the workshop was to get everything out of the garage so that we could put both cars away. That was the goal.
Nobody uses garages for that ever, anywhere on the planet.
Oh, well.
Especially not in Victoria.
Call me... Well, I mean... Yeah. We're in Rowville. Rowville has a history of getting hailstorms with hailstones the size of golf balls. We've had 2 of those that I'm aware about, those particular events. I'd rather not have the car outside for the 3rd.
Okay, as long as you're aware that they don't deter Sudanese gangs.
Golf balls? I mean, or garages.
Either.
No, it's just about the fact that when we moved in, we had an agreement about how things were going to happen, and the workshop was sized appropriately, and believe me when I tell you that it's probably already full, and it isn't even erected yet.
Well, think of it this way then. You could retire tomorrow and not be bored the rest of your life.
Pretty much.
My old man retired a couple of years ago, and he's a bit bored.
Can't get it. I don't understand it. Obviously, you know, I have a particular worldview and a particular point of view and everything like that. I'm looking at... If I look at my genetic makeup and I look at the likely length of my life, compared to, you know, how long my father lived and how long his father lived and how long my mother's father lived and all that kind of stuff, I've already run out of time. I've already got enough work here to keep me going well beyond my projected lifespan.
Yeah, that's a mildly depressing thought.
Yeah, see, you're speaking to a guy that's already had a double heart bypass. That mortality, that's been hammered home.
True.
Very keenly aware of it now, sadly. So some of the anxiety and depression comes from.
Yeah, that's understandable too.
But there's also a fair degree of PTSD involved in the actual event itself.
Oh no, it's just perfectly normal. Well, of course, I can understand and appreciate that too.
They don't tell you. They give you a whole bunch of information as you're leaving the hospital, going, here's the kind of food you need to eat, here's the kind of exercise that you need to do, here's the drugs you have to take for the rest of your life. Off you go. And they in no way... didn't really cover just how hard it was going to be to get over emotionally.
Well, it's a whole different other set of specialists.
Yeah. And it isn't... It's another one of those things. It isn't while you're there. It's another, I don't know, it's another mourning process. You know, you've got to go through this process of mourning the person who you were and becoming the person who you are. And that's really fucking difficult. Which is why I went back to being the kid that I was when I was 15. You know, it's like, when was the last time I was really happy? Then, what was I doing then to make me really happy? These things. Right, I'll start doing those things again to see if they make me happy. Turns out, they do. Because you're sitting here watching me do them.
I hope that makes you happy too.
It does.
Good. Then you're, you know,
Ahead of the
still
curve.
living, and you're living for the future.
Yep.
Kind of. And not just living in the past.
No.
Because I can't imagine you streaming when you're a 15-year-old kid. Never mind the technical aspect.
No.
That's a thought I didn't need to be thinking about, though. When was the last time I was really, really happy?
Well, yeah, I don't know that you want to necessarily go down that path in your current environment, but I've been
Or,
going.
no, it was just an answer to that question. It's not one that I like.
I've been in and out of professional counselling my entire life, my entire adult life. I started when I was a teenager in high school because I struggled to deal with my peers in high school. Not a lot of emotional resilience, and you need a lot of emotional resilience to deal with kids of high school age, just because they don't know who they are either. And so, yeah.
I'm glad you've gotten something out of that whole process.
Processes.
Fair enough. It's never worked for me in the times I've tried it.
Yeah, right.
But that's the kind of person that I am.
It's definitely a case of your mileage may vary. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it as the panacea of the fixer of all things, and I've had good counsellors and I've had not so good counsellors, and you know, if you've tried it and it doesn't work, at least you tried it.
It was the last 6 months of 2002 was the last time I was really, really happy.
That's a fair while ago now.
Yep. We're a miserable bunch, we human beings.
Us two in particular.
Well, I'm not going to cast aspersions at us specifically, just at the human race.
Mm.
That's why we have this love of drugs and alcohol and thrill-seeking and
Escapism in general.
self-harm and escapism.
Yeah. Well,
We just need something to make us feel alive, because day-to-day life is crap. We're not Mexican fishermen.
that's right. We're not taught to be Mexican fishermen, and this is the problem. All the next things have to be bigger and better. So
We need that new device to save time and labor on us. We need to work even harder to afford it and to keep it running with the power and the electricity. Just so that we can claw back a couple minutes spare at the end of the day.
And by the time you've got those minutes spare, you're too tired to deal with them. So
Yep.
you sit there with a alcoholic beverage of choice in your hand, staring at easy entertainment. Yes, I'm still convinced that in the next couple of years I'm going to take time cuts instead of pay rises.
It'd probably be healthier for you if you did, but not from a fiscal sense.
No,
Because you're like me, you have your obligations and you live up to them,
certainly try
as
to.
we've discussed before.
Certainly try to. But I always qualify that with I am the laziest man on the planet. I do want to do a good job, but I only want to do it once. Thanks very much. If you want me to do a good job, but you want me to do it 100 times, the same job that is, I'm not interested.
That's not lazy, that's common bloody sense.
Well, it's not as common as you'd like it to be, or it's certainly not as common as I'd like it to be.
Yes, whoever termed it common sense played humanity's greatest joke. Greatest ever practical joke.
That's right. How are we doing for time?
It is 9:51, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah, I was surprised when I looked at the clock when you asked to, because it feels like, 20 to 9 to me.
Yeah. Righto, well, we'll knock over the metal on these guys and probably pull the plug.
That driveway won't fix itself.
It will not.
That's what contractors are for, but good luck getting that.
Yeah, it's impossible at the moment.
They're all working union jobs, driving up and down the highway just so they can get out of the house.
Yeah, it's a real issue. It's like loads of job sites are shut down. And they're telling us 70% vaccinated, and they'll start opening things up.
Don't believe it for a second. 70 will grow into 90, just like, well, I'd snap my fingers if I could.
Mm-hmm. There's a new normal coming, Matty.
I like the old one. The Chief Health Officer of New South Wales actually called it a new world order in her presser the other day. Literally, new world order.
I wonder if that was deliberate.
I think it was accidental, but also, the truth. It's only a conspiracy up until the point where it's not a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, that's right.
One of the blokes who's was running for governor of California had a cracker line about that the other day.
Yeah, what was it?
I'm trying to remember, I need to go back and find it. It was brilliant and pithy. And I don't mean cracker in the racial pejorative.
No.
Never mind the fact that the man was African American. It's just the way we Australians talk. Cracker is not the racial epithet that it is in other parts of the world here.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we drink flat white coffees. And long black coffees.
Yeah, long black coffees.
Yeah, there's the toothpaste pepperoni pizza. Getting closer.
Ew.
At this point, conspiracy theories might as well be called spoiler alerts.
Clever.
Yes, that was Errol Weber, who was running for governor of California. I think he's dropped out of the race at the moment in favour of another chap.
Right. It's got to be close to breakfast time.
Yeah, I'm contemplating having breakfast instead of sitting in the garden and reading a book.
You can't have breakfast in the garden?
Oh, not really. I'd need a table.
I haven't got one, you've only got a chair.
Yeah, I've just got a wicker chair, unfortunately.
I missed every single one of those shirt fringes.
It was bound to happen.
At least it was consistent.
Yeah. Pardon the silence, just coughing up my guts.
That's alright. It's even the little details. This guy's got a belt buckle on. You know, his belt buckle's hidden, mostly hidden by his hand, so it's tucked in under there. But it's just enough of it visible that you can make out that his belt buckle is a skull. I love that.
They really are crazily detailed.
Yeah, they are. Globbed paint on his chin. He's still here at 11 o'clock.
Could be. It's just turned 10.
Yeah. So what was Don painting? thought I saw pictures of animals.
Yes, his recently departed cat, Sebastian.
Tribute.
A tribute, yes.
It's not bloody easy. Not easy at all.
Yeah, I've decided against animals in my life, basically because of that.
Yeah. A friend of mine pointed out that we are like elves to them, you know.
This is true.
They grow
That
up.
is very true.
Very poignant.
That's a perspective I've never really considered from a role-playing game standpoint, because I've never really played elves. In most games I tend to gravitate towards orcs, if they have them. Like in various Farsa and former Farsa properties. Or humans otherwise. Yeah, I've never really considered the elf longevity aspect of as a role-playing thing, because yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting insight.
I think if I were to roleplay an elf at all, I would be extremely disinterested in everyone else and aloof, and I guess I see where that's all coming from now. It makes sense now. And all it takes is an animal analogy.
Yeah. Well, there we go. 4 colours, 2 hours.
Time well spent, though.
Absolutely.
And I mean, just think, if you tried to do 2 units at once,
I'd have only done 2
you might
colours.
have gotten 2 colours.
Yeah, and that would have been even more boring. But they're great figures. It is always a pleasure to sit down and paint them. Just there's so much there, and they come out so beautifully with, you know, comparatively little effort. Like some of the 28mm stuff I've had to do in the past. There's 3 times as much effort got to go in to make them look as good as these things come out. So I just think I'd like to see more people buy this stuff. I really would. Anyhow, we're working on it. Thank you once again.
It is a great range.
It is. And there's a lot of it too, by the way. 700 SKUs. There's a lot of it.
There's a lot of variety in there. A lot of variety. There's something for everyone.
Yep. Good stuff.
Well, thanks, Dan.
No worries. Thanks.
It's been enjoyable as always.
Yeah. As you said, time well spent. And thanks to everybody else who watches it. Come along and join us in when we're live. Come into the Farsa Discord server, join the general voice channel and chat away. Good stuff. I hope everybody enjoys their weekends. I'll see you all next week. Cheers.